On AB-730, the safest answer is often not the answer that gets the fastest AI output. It is the answer that uses Copilot effectively while protecting sensitive information, respecting permissions, and checking the result before the business uses it. That is the mental model for this lesson. Microsoft is not testing whether you are afraid of AI. Microsoft is testing whether you can use AI in a way that preserves trust. So when a scenario includes customer data, HR notes, financial numbers, legal language, or internal strategy, slow down. The question is no longer just, can Copilot help? The question is, what is the safest Microsoft 365 workflow that still meets the business goal? Start by looking for sensitive data clues in the stem. Words like confidential, customer records, HR documents, unreleased financials, legal review, compliance, personally identifiable information, or internal-only project files are not filler. They are exam signals. Those signals tell you that a generic productivity answer is probably not enough. The correct answer should avoid copying sensitive content into the wrong place. It should avoid broadening access just to get a better answer. And it should avoid treating AI output as automatically approved. For example, if a manager needs a summary of HR feedback that includes employee names and sensitive comments, the best first step is not to paste everything into a random public AI chat. A safer answer keeps the work in an approved Microsoft 365 Copilot experience, uses appropriate file permissions, minimizes unnecessary personal details, and adds review before sharing. A core Microsoft 365 idea is that work content is governed by organizational identity, permissions, and policies. That matters because Copilot does not magically erase the access model. If a user does not have access to a file, the right answer is not to bypass permissions. If a protection policy restricts what can be returned, the right answer is not to export the content into a less controlled tool. This is where many distractors become tempting. An option might say to temporarily grant wider access so Copilot can inspect more files. Another option might say to copy the content into a tool that has fewer restrictions. Those can sound productive, but they usually violate the trust boundary. A strong AB-730 answer works with the access the user is allowed to have. It keeps the workflow in approved Microsoft 365 experiences, references appropriate sources, and respects the organization's existing data protection controls. Now turn that into an exam strategy. When an answer option says to paste confidential data into an unapproved public AI tool, assume that is risky. When an answer says to temporarily broaden permissions so Copilot can inspect more files, that is usually a red flag. When an answer says to export restricted content into a less controlled environment, that is also a red flag. The Microsoft-style pattern is usually more boring, and that is the point. Use the approved tool. Respect the existing access controls. Use appropriate source material. Then review the result before it is used in a sensitive business context. A B730 is a business user exam, not an admin exam. You do not need to configure every security control, but you do need to recognize when a proposed workflow weakens the controls the organization already relies on. Two AI risk patterns show up repeatedly in certification scenarios: fabrication and prompt injection. Fabrication means an AI response can sound confident while being wrong, incomplete, or unsupported. This matters because polished writing can feel trustworthy even when the claim is not backed by the source. Prompt injection is different. That is when source content, a document, or a web page, includes instructions designed to manipulate the AI response. In an exam scenario, the source might contain suspicious directions that do not belong to the business task. In both cases, the safe response follows the same pattern. Check the cited sources, verify important claims against trusted material, and use human review before making decisions or sending customer-facing content. The key is not to reject Copilot. The key is to avoid pretending that a confident answer is automatically a verified answer. Here is the safe Copilot workflow to keep in your head. First, use an approved Microsoft 365 Copilot experience. Second, use context the user is allowed to access. Third, minimize sensitive data where possible. Fourth, check citations, source documents, and important claims. Fifth, add human review when the output affects customers, finance, legal, compliance, HR, or other higher-risk business areas. That gives you a practical decision checklist for AB-730 answer choices. If the option satisfies the business goal but breaks the trust boundary, it is probably not the best answer. If the option protects information but fails the business goal, it is incomplete. The strongest answer does both. It helps the user accomplish the work and preserves the organization's protections. Let's wrap this lesson with the simplest rule. AI productivity does not cancel information protection. For AB-730, the best answer should satisfy the business goal and preserve trust. It should use Copilot where Copilot helps, but it should not ask the user to bypass permissions, move protected data into weaker tools, or trust unsupported output without review. In the next lesson, we will use the same exam mindset to separate normal Copilot chat from reusable Copilot agents. That distinction matters because many scenarios look similar at first. A one-off conversation may belong in chat. A repeatable workflow with defined knowledge and shared team use may need an agent. That is where we go next.